Alright, I'm going to show you how I rig a new character to use the same skeleton that Utran's network uses so that I can share all of the animations that his network generated. So I'll use a different character than the ones that I have set up for this already. And in this folder I've extracted that oops, in this folder I've extracted that set of low poly characters, and I will just use this one because I already extracted him. Alright, for this project in particular, you'll need to disable X-ray on the mesh itself, otherwise you won't be able to see the skeleton, and enable X-ray on the skeleton. And so, this is the default skeleton of the character that has... Also, let me enable screencast. Okay. Okay, so this is the default skeleton that comes with fingers and stuff, but we can't use this because it's not compatible with any of his animations. So we're going to use the skeleton to make the character's body match up with the rest pose of Utran's skeleton, and then we're going to ditch this one. So I will import one of the skeletons that, or one of the FBX files that was generated by my BVH2 FBX script. And it doesn't matter which one you actually use because they all have the same rest pose. Otherwise, they wouldn't all be able to apply to the same character. And so, in this case, I believe, or at least for IEEE VR, the 0th frame was the same as the rest pose. But I have a force of habit of just keeping this as rest pose because it's not always the case. Alright, so we're going to try to have this guy match up with this. So I will do that. And I have the screencast here too. Oh, also I'm going to make one of these characters look different. So the guy themselves will use stick bones. First I'm just trying to make sure his heels are in the right place. Or not, and they're not going to be in the right place initially, but at least centering. Okay, he's also too tall. Also, I'm going to enable X-ray for this one as well. So this should be... This one should be the root of his neck, which looks like the case. Alright, that should work. Yeah, that's fine for now. I just worry that the head pivot will be in the wrong place, but that's something that's fixable. Alright, then we'll go into pose mode. Start fixing up everything else. If you're not familiar with Blender controls, you can hit, so G is translate, but translate's not really useful for bones because human bones should only be able to rotate. We have very few bones that translate. So R is rotate. And then you can, after you do R, you can choose, well, by default it rotates relative to the camera plane, but if you want it to rotate on a specific axis, you can do R, X, or Y, or Z. And then, if you want, that'll be in global coordinates, but if you want it to be on local coordinates, you can hit the axis twice. So, for example, oh, this isn't global. Okay, so this is the local axis of the bone. And this is handy because Y, for example, will always go along the bone. So if I wanted to twist the arm around, but keep it in this like pointing direction, I can do R, Y, Y, and then do that. So that's the controls to do that. First what I need to do is possibly make the guy a little wider. This part here should be his shoulder. It's just that his own shoulder bone happens to be a little bit offset. Alright, we can kind of fix this. There is an option, I actually don't remember how to open this menu here. Oh, there it is. There is a shortcut, I just don't remember what it is. It's tempting to enable reflect over x-axis. I don't remember where that is, but in that case, or flip over y-axis, but in that case, this isn't going to work because the rest pose is not on, it's not on the y-axis, like it's technically not symmetric. Alright, so to solve this problem, I need to do Rx SYY, like that. I don't remember exactly what values I used, so I'm going to try to keep it the same for both shoulders. Alright, 10, 8. 8 looks good. And I'm going to scale by 1.2 is perfect. Right, then RYY, RXX, sorry. Also, without ambient occlusion, it's kind of hard to tell where the arms are. Still very difficult. I want to change this to be some other kind of bone. Yeah, that'll work. This might be, let's see. This might be a problem as is because his bicep is too thick and that'll cause working problems, so we'll want to shrink this a little. If you hold Shift Y Y, it'll shrink it along other axes. Or if you do Shift and then hit an axis, it'll select the two axes that are not the one that you hit. So I wanna Shift Y Y, scale Shift Y Y. There we go. I basically just want to shrink his bicep, but I don't want to turn it smaller just yet. And I also want to get an exact value. 0.75, 0.6. See if I can bring his clothes in a little bit. Try to solve this problem more elegantly. Okay, thankfully he's a low poly, so it's not very hard to do that. wanna change this to have 0 rotation again. RXX 180. If you need more control Z's, you can increase them in user preferences. I think it's in system. Somewhere here. Oh, here we go. Number of steps 256. Alright, so let me change this back to sticks. And right now what I want to do is shrink his body in this direction. Ideally, Utram would T-pose his character's rest poses, but in this case that's not an option. Changing the modifier to do this will ensure that you're editing the mesh that's actually posed. So like with the arms out. Alright, so to try to solve this problem, I'm going to use sculpt mode. So re-enable ambient occlusion. I did, never mind. It's just not doing a very good job. Okay, that's kind of helpful, I guess. I want them to... I guess just shrink it. Inflate, deflate, deflate. Don't enable dynamic topology and also disable symmetry. I don't understand why symmetry is enabled by default, so that's just annoying. Alright. We're also probably gonna have to change the strength. Auto smooth I don't think will help with a character. Like this. Okay, that's already looking better. That's not bad. I'm gonna try to put the armpit up more. With the way I'm doing it now, he's not gonna be symmetric, but humans are not symmetric anyway, so it's not a big deal. Up on this arm a little. I don't want to shrink his arm though. This took a lot of tweaking to get looking right with the skeleton. I mean with the return skeletons. Alright, this is okay, but for now. Now I'm just gonna do the same to the other side. And try to make it look kinda close. And that wasn't bad actually. It's not doing a very good job on this area for some reason. Oh, accumulate will help. Accumulate makes sure that whenever you make modifications, it keeps... Like if I were to hold the mouse, it would continually shrink this area. If you don't, then basically you can only make one change per click. Alright, I mean this is a start. The ambient occlusion is making it look a lot worse. Unreal shading is much better. Just trying to shrink this a little. This part does not want to shrink. Could could also switch to a different tool, I guess. Like, here we go. Sculpt, draw, subtract, emulate, strength high, no symmetry. Right, let's try this. Might be a little bit too strong. Oh, whoops. Strength. There we go. Alright, I mean, I think this is fine for now. Could always tweak it afterwards. And anyway, I'm gonna continue with the posing. Objects. The legs are gonna be a problem too, but we'll worry about shrinking those in a bit. Yeah, the ambient occlusion is somehow affecting the sticks themselves. Alright, so back to business. RXX negative 75, negative 80, negative 90. Alright, that's not bad. Alright, I mean, this will work for now. Now we can shrink his biceps a little. So S, Y, Y, say 0.7. S, shift, Y, Y, 0.7. Alright, now I just have to straighten them out. Okay. Enable ambient occlusion again because it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. It also doesn't help I have two similar types of bone structures, but... Alright, so I want R, X, Z, Z. Okay, that looks okay, it's not perfectly aligned just yet. Do another RZZ. Alright, that looks okay. This is supposed to be where the hand starts though, so his arms are a little too short. So now I'll do SYY and lengthen them a little. SYY. Now I'm trying to lengthen his arms but not his hands, so we can shrink his hands too. I have to redo this. Alright, that's okay. SYY. I'm trying to align his wrist sleeves. Alright, I mean, that's okay to start out with. Z-axis maybe. Alright, now we just need to shrink his hips a little. This is the root of his body, I think, so we can't mess with this, but we can mess with his legs by doing another SYY. I'll do... wait, SYY 0.6. Oh, whoops. S shift YY 0.6. 0.8. 0.85. Sure, that'll work. S shift YY 0.85. Basically, the goal is to make sure that his hands are not touching his pants at all. Because if you do that, it will distribute the vertex weights between the legs and the hands, which will cause it'll make it so that when the hand moves, it'll pull a part of the pants with it, and the same with the legs. So obviously we don't want that. Okay, so I think the spine is okay. Utran's spine for these characters, it's really close to the back, but we can... Actually, we probably want to move his entire body back a little bit. Yeah, alright. G, Y. Actually, I'm gonna move the entire armature. G, Y, that. I'm just trying to get these gray lines to be in the middle of his legs. So that looks okay, but we'll have to adjust the arms again. What I will do for now, I'm not sure what kind of repercussions this would have normally, but it's gonna rotate it a little bit. So RZ negative 10, negative 8. I don't know why it keeps... Okay, I don't know why it keeps messing with my negatives when I'm doing that, but whatever. Alright, that looks okay to start with. This part here is a little busted. So you would want to... Like, I kind of deflated his rib cage a little too much. This looks like an easy fix, though. Alright, that'll work for now. This, I mean, it definitely takes some tweaking to make it look right. Pose mode. Yes. I'm gonna shrink his head just a little bit to try to match his arms a little bit more. Then of course it ends up with a much bigger chest. That's what happens when we don't understand what we don't know what the human who generated the network's skeletons look like, which makes this a lot harder. So I guess that means you probably don't want to use a buff dude if you want to avoid trouble with scaling, but it'll work for now. Alright, I'm gonna finish this up. R, Y, this. I'm not even gonna try too hard to make it symmetric anymore. R, Y, that's... R, X. Right, his legs need to be scaled a little. You can select multiple things and do this SYY. I just don't do it for rotations because rotational axes are flipped. So if you like R, YY for the legs, like it's not going to move them towards each other. It's going to move them like that. I don't really know how to explain it. Like the pivot's wrong. You could try. You have individual origins, I guess, too. R. Which at least stops... Using individual origins stops the entire hips from rotating, but even so, the legs, like, they're not going to move towards each other. I guess that's what I'm saying. So that's why I don't do multiple selections for rotations generally. But whatever. Okay, so let me. Oh, whoops. I was scaling the legs. So, I might have scaled a little too much. I'm gonna make that the middle of the foot. There is an option for skeletons, or bones, to make them not inherit scale. So basically, if you, like, for example, if you wanted to make sure that when I scale this arm, the hand doesn't scale, you can make the hand not do inherit scale, and then it'll stay the same scale, but the rest of it will change. See? So, I mean, there are a lot of different tricks for this. I just kind of wing it. Well, I just accidentally found out that the shortcut is T. Right, R, Y, this. Also, the knee has to be correct. That's something I should probably check now, because that's really important. And obviously I can't tell with these bones. So, this knee has to look like this. If I click this, the knee is just a little too high. Scale it just a little bit more. Okay, that should have solved that problem. And for the most part, approximately it solves it. So I'm going to change this back. Probably needs to fix the foot scale again. Okay. His shoes are a little too short. Alright, we probably don't want to do that. Try doing this, just to make it a little bit less awkward when I rotate the foot. Alright, I mean that looks okay for now, just for this example. Alright, so I think it matches okay, just to finish this up. Not bad. So what we need to do now is, on the character's mesh, we need to apply the armature. Then we need to apply, well actually in this case we don't, but if there is any kind of location change, like if any of these are not zeroed out, we would need to do Shift or Control A and then apply location rotation scale. Otherwise, when you rig it to the other mesh or to the other skeleton, it'll screw everything up. Alright, so the guy's armature we don't need anymore. I'll move it to layer 2. And now I'm going to try rigging it to turn skeleton. Well, it looks like I Something is up with the rest pose. Wait, I'm gonna re-rig this guy. Or not re-rig him, but oh wait, I think I know what's happening. Yeah, I know what's happening. I think you have to do clear parents. Yeah, like he can't be under the armature at all. Otherwise he inherits any kind of modification to the armature. So in this case, he was inheriting the he was trying to move back to the origin of the armature itself, like when location 000. Alright, so let's try again. This. And this is still in rest pose. But yeah, there you go. He actually doesn't look as bad as I thought he would in the chest area. His stomach is kind of bulging. What is that? I've never seen this view. Enable this again. And here's where you can make tweaks while he's in a pose. Like, for example, I don't really notice his stomach doesn't look that messed up until he's in action, which was the case for a lot of Utren's stuff. I think it was just, I think it was a problem with the original data. So using this trick with making sure the mesh is in the right pose, it'll let you make modifications now. So for example, now I can go into sculpt mode and kind of iron that out. In this case I can use like smooth, and I will smooth that part out. And I'm going to enable ambient occlusion so I can see what I'm doing. So actually it's not helping. You can change to a different view mode, I guess. I don't know how helpful that would be. Kind of helpful, actually. So, tell it to smooth that part. Nice. So now that stomach part looks better, and now his shoulders are a little busted, so may want to smooth this out. I don't know if that messed up anything up. Yeah, it did. Also, Unreal's rendering is good, so that will help with these kinds of problems too, because things don't usually look as bad in Unreal as they do in Blender. But yeah, now we see that there's this problem here, so we can tell it to smooth this out a little. Making him higher poly would probably help too. With making this not look so busted. Like, I think I subdivided the characters that we used in IEEE VR to help with the smoothing. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Alright, so this shoulder is still too sharp. But overall, I would say this looks a lot better. Alright, so if you do want to subdivide, also I'm going to save this. Re-rig. Okay, so if I do want to subdivide this, you can put it right after here. So, I think that every subdivision will quadruple the number of triangles that it uses, so you should probably be careful with how many subdivisions you can do. Right now it's not that many because it's a very low poly mesh, but the more you do, the easier it will be to smooth it and make it look right. And it'll also look better in Unreal probably. So this doesn't look bad. His elbows are kind of messed up, and that's something that again you can correct by doing that sculpting stuff. You can use inflate or something right here, and that will make it not as busted here. But I'm gonna stick with subsurf. I'll keep it at 2. And yeah, I mean, this is his armature, and we don't need the other one. So what I will do now is export this as an FBX. I will send it to the same directory that I have all the other characters because I'm lazy, I'm not creative. F2, yeah, it's somewhere here. The rocket people here. So I'm gonna say low poly man 2. Nice. And then Unreal will prompt me to import. And see, it already knows that this is the skeleton that I should be using. I think it is. Let me check quickly. Whatever she's using. Yes, she's using that one. So, that would have been fine then. Just re-import. Okay. Import mesh, and that's going to use the skeleton. Animations we don't need to import because we're just using one of the animations that already exists in this project. I just happened to use it for the re-rigging process. Alright, so I'm going to import all. It pretty much always throws warnings for these characters, so I'm gonna not worry about it. But anyway, there he is. And he will look mostly okay, except for his elbows. It actually doesn't look too bad, I would say. And I guess the scale of his head, maybe. You can probably expand his arms a little after doing the rigging or something. I don't know, there are a lot of corrections you can make. And as before, I would set all of his materials to be unlit. Or actually not unlit, but not shiny. So metallic should be 0, specular should be 0, roughness should be 1. Because these characters look very strange when they're shiny. And I think the shininess can also accentuate the errors. But yeah, like this is definitely fixable in Blender. Just use wait till he's at that point. Actually, this is probably not the right animation, or this is probably not a good animation to use to test, but if you want to, as long as you don't change the frame number, you can pose him in whatever pose you need to make it look right. So if I want to deal with this error, I can pose him here, and it's not going to keyframe it because you need to explicitly keyframe stuff. So while it's in this pose, you can make corrections with the sculpt tool. Like in this case, this part here, I want to be a little smoother. That looks a little better. You probably also would want to inflate this arm a little bit. Doesn't quite do what I wanted it to. But I think you get the gist of it. It's just the rigging and then the corrections to make it look right with his skeleton. Since we don't know the source data, we kind of just have to guess what looks right or what doesn't look right. So that is it. This will work for any other characters because, as we saw, we just throw out the original rig. All that matters is that you use this rig to put it in the right rest pose so that we can re-rig it. And this character is particularly easy, or these low poly characters in general are all pretty easy because they're just one mesh. With Rocket Box characters, it's more problematic because it has multiple meshes and they all rig separately. onto the skeleton, which means that there is not really anything that you can do to stop the clothes from going through each other, except for like merging the meshes or something, which I think is what I ended up doing. So yeah, hopefully this helps. And sorry that this is long, but I tried to make it pretty thorough. So yeah, good luck with this.